Hello and welcome to the Monster Painter. This time I'm going to battle my pile of shame and build a whole bunch of Dungeons and Lasers stretch goals. Alright, so a new Dungeons and Lasers crowdfunder campaign is launching on April 1st, and it looks like a lot of fun. Unfortunately, I still have a pile of shame from the last Dungeons and Lasers crowdfunder I backed, so if I'm going to even try to justify buying the new one, I better get to work on the old one. So I'm going to put together the Woodhaven Stretch Goals boxes and get that ball a-rolling. Upon opening the box, I discovered it is full of sprues. I suspect the other two boxes are also full of sprues. Now, I postulate that a miniature goes through a number of stages in its life cycle. While on the sprue, it is part of the dread pile of shame. Once it is clipped off and assembled, it is part of the Grey Mountain. After it is primed, it enters the pile of opportunity. And then, once a little paint is applied, it is a work in progress. And then, after it is finished, it is a proper gaming miniature. And you can go out and get some more. My goal here is merely to shrink the pile of shame and grow the Grey Mountain. So let's get at it. I break out the snips to get them off the sprue, and I break out my trusty utility knife to clean them up and get the model ready. Remember, this is the most dangerous part of the hobby. You do not need to offer blood to the blood god, so take your time. Be mindful. Though the injury that might occur will be pretty minor, it will hurt nonetheless, so pay attention to what you're doing. Okay, after a few hours and a bit of a struggle, the models are assembled. Now let's see what box 1 has to offer. Alright, I'm going to start with a few things that I don't have any immediate use for, like this dandy store sign. In sign, but I don't have an in to attach it to. We got a weapons rack, but it's wall mounted, and I don't have a wall to mount it to. And then as well, we got a couple of ladders. Again, they mount. It's got that little knob, so this works with the Dungeons and Lasers modular dungeon caves stuff. I got 2 of those. They're not bad. They'll be useful. I just got to figure out how to use them. We got a wall with a spider web. Again, it works with that whole system, which I'm not invested into, so I'm not sure how I'm going to use it, but it's still pretty cool. This one may be more useful. It's got the knobby, so it works with the system, but this vault, it's not attached, so I can use this as a hatch, and I'll get a little bit more use out of that. Not too bad. The next thing is this wee object. So it's got a little cover, and you can remove the cover, and then a ladder fits in for your multiple level terrain. Very handy, and these things would be great if you invested into the Dungeons and Lasers system, which I have not. Oh, and a little piece of sidewalk. I might figure out a use for that. And then finally we got it's hard to see them. They are little bitty drainage pipes with goo coming out, and I got 1, 2, 3, 4 of those guys. Not super useful stuff, but I should, I'll keep it, and I may find a use for it, and it's still pretty cool. Now, somewhat related, I get a bell and a banner, and again, they have the knobs that fit into their little system, which I haven't invested into, but these, I can cut that knob off and mount it on a base, and these will be good pieces of scatter terrain. But that is for a future episode, as I am trying to give you everything in a kind of unmodified fashion. So those aren't bad. we also get a storm of bric-a-brac. A basket with food, another basket with food, a little cage with what appears to be a very creepy monster inside. Oh dear. An anvil, a little portable workstation, a big bundle of stuff. Yet another little basket. Lots of these little gribbly bits. I quite enjoy this kind of stuff. I like it. It adds texture to a game. This is some kind of alchemist's doodad. It even has a face on it. That's cute. Nice stuff. And yet another wee little basket. I might have to mount that on a base. I will definitely be mounting this soup pot on a base because it's a bit tippy. I don't like tippy too much. We get more food containers, so we got the start of a market stall for sure. Some farmer selling his wares, and a bucket. Don't see buckets very often in dungeon furniture stuff, so got me a little bucket, and for some reason a wee mallet. Yep, the thing came with a mallet. I couldn't figure out if it goes with anything, so yep, I got a mallet. A lot of fun. I enjoy this kind of thing. Oh, look at that. We get a selection of rats. Oh boy. And they're kind of, I guess they're on the large side for rats, but they're modestly naturalistic in their scaling. And of course, they're great for adding texture to things, or even as, very weak hostiles. But, I can always use more rats. On to some novel items. This is a little chest, and you can't quite see it, but there's a little sword in there. So a bit of treasure, possibly. Kind of useful. A definite piece of treasure, but a harder one to get at. A safe. That's cool. I always like a little treasure that's a little more challenging to access. What appears to be a manhole cover. I don't think I have a single manhole cover in my collection, so that kind of is useful. And then we have this wheelbarrow, and it's a lovely wheelbarrow, but it does illustrate one of the dangers. You can see there some of the parts of these models are very fragile, and they will, if you're not careful, they're gonna break when you're trying to get them off the sprues, as in the case of this. They glue really well with the plastic glue, so it's on there reasonable, but it's not going to be super strong. But then again, this is kind of a delicate thing altogether. So just be careful. Be careful removing them from the sprues. All right, we get some bigger, more impressive terrain. We got a lovely looking throne, and it comes with a couple of pyres, I guess, making for a nice scene. That's a convincing chair for the king or the duke or whoever happens to put their pompous posture in pretentious chairs. Yeah, great stuff. Loving it. Of course, as we know, the king is going to be training, or has all the military equipment. So we got a cannon, a weapons rack, a smaller weapons rack, a target to do your archery practice, always handy. Another, I guess, a dummy if you're going to fight or just store the equipment. So this could be a treasure marker or something like that. And then a rather fine-looking ballista. Ballistas aren't particularly rare in terms of miniatures, but this is a good one. Very convincing-looking ballista. So happy to have it. All right, we are blessed with a dead guy as well. A tomb. Always, can't get enough tombs. It seems like adventurers and war games are always taking place in the where the dead lie. And we get a Egyptian sarcophagus. It is only one-sided, so it's going to have to be lying flat or up against a wall. And I guess maybe I can make use of those walls now. But yeah, I would have preferred to have a back, but it's okay. These things are usually lying down anyway. Ooh, now we get something that's always handy, a little market stall for a traveling merchant or whatever, but it's a good looking one. Looks like he's got all sorts of provisions and things. And then just a regular old farmer's cart, you know, probably a donkey cart. It looks like a donkey cart, but you know, it's one way to get a whole bunch of people back to town. Yeah, these are great. Very handy. All right, so you know, every house in the medieval era needs a hearth, and so we've got a hearth. This one looks like it's a blacksmith's hearth, possibly, but very good. You can get that thing going up pretty hot and smelt some iron, and then we get a really lovely fountain. I love fountains as a scatter terrain. They always really make a place look real. And then we get this giant egg. I don't know what to say about it. I don't know what it's supposed to be. I guess it's just a great big decorative thingamy for some mad wizard's castle. It's big. Oh yeah, and we get a couple modest benches. Don't forget the benches. These are they're pretty useful. You know, they always add texture to a setting. In the tavern, in the dungeon, somebody's got to sit down once in a while. Okay, now we're starting to hit the fun stuff. We've got there was a sprue of transparent models. So this is a ghost. It looks like he's got a ball and chain. So he's the ghost of a prisoner, unhappy spirit for sure. And then we have this wild, crazy-looking lion-like thing. A little small for a lion, but some spooky monster. We got a proper wraith with its sword and ethereal design. He should be pretty good. And we got a dead bride. Poor girl. So tragic. And then I really love this little playful ghost. He's you know, nice cliche, but he's fun. And looks like he's having a good time. So, some pretty good models for sure. Okay, we get a couple more transparent models, including this this gateway. This has got to be my favorite miniature in the box. I really like this thing. It's going to be a blast to get done up. And then from American folklore, we get the dreaded Headless Horseman. Looks like Sleepy Hollow is not going to be resting comfortably tonight with this guy riding around. Ooh, I love these transparent models. They can be a bit tricky to paint, but I look forward to the challenge. Okay, now we're getting to something really fun. A great big weird monster. Looks like a fire monster, and he is big and scary and a really complicated model that I struggled to put together. I did it all systematically, so I opened the first box and put everything together, and then discovered that the instructions were in the third box. I did use the instructions to finish him because I couldn't figure out where this last little bit was supposed to go, but otherwise I dry fitted him and he came together reasonably well, and he's big and weird, and he's got a big weird buddy monster plant by the looks of it, or some kind of, no, I don't know, Cthulhian monster angry mouth guy. And we also get a rather enormous toad, and the toad came with an option. I could have put this mouthpiece on it where it looks like a guy has just been swallowed and he's desperately trying to get out. I'm glad that it was an option because I'm not crazy about it. It looks a little too silly for me. And then you could also attach his wee tongue, you know, lolling out there. And that would have been okay, but I prefer my giant toad to be a little more dignified without his tongue sticking out. Yeah, he's gonna be a lot of fun. Okay, and we get to the last of the box. We got this wizard with her dragon wand, and this broke. Again, you got to be really careful. The finer parts of these models are delicate. The head broke off. It re-glued relatively well. That plastic glue is a sure good bond. And then we got this snake guy. He's pretty fun, and again, the plastic glue is a pretty good bond. So he's only on 1 foot, but he's on there pretty reasonable. And then I had trouble with these two guys, and I had set them aside. And then once I found the instructions in the third box, I figured out how to put them together and what was supposed to be going on. So we got a paladin and this fellow with his shovel. He's supposed to be holding a lantern, but I've managed to, in the process, misplace that lantern. I might attach the big basket, one of those baskets of food, because he's, looking very farmery on his base. Or I might try to dig up another little lantern and, make him a little closer to how he was intended to be. Now this here is the most regrettable part. This is supposed to be a necromancer. When I was trimming this dreadful sorcerer off their base, the arm, when I cut to the arm, it went ping and flew across the room to parts unknown. I was never able to find it, so, I got a messy apartment. It might turn up when I'm sweeping up or something like that, so I'm going to hold on and maybe I will be able to build it one day. We'll see. With box 1 out of the way, it is time to tear into box 2, and wouldn't you know it, it's full of sprues. All these sprues are from the Dungeons and Lasers Woodhaven Stretch Goals campaign from, I think, 2022. I did not back the Woodhaven campaign, rather I picked these up as add-ons when I backed the Dungeons and Lasers Encounters campaign from a couple years ago. I'm pretty sure Archon Studios will let you add these stretch goals to your pledge during the Dungeons and Lasers Porthaven campaign, which launches on April 1st. I recall it cost around 39 euros for all 3 boxes, which was a sweet, sweet deal, as this box alone contains almost 60 models. Okay, it's time to get building. So this box is full of character models rather than scatter terrain. I'm going to have to be a little more careful and a lot more systematic. They are not hard models to assemble, but they are fairly complex, and some of them are pretty damn fiddly. Bring your patience and your stamina, because there are a lot of models, and this is going to take a whole bunch of time. Hoo-wee! I was not kidding. It took me some time. Well more than the 6 hours I planned for. But I'm terrible at estimating how long it will take me. Well, the big pile of miniatures are assembled. Now let's see what box 2 has to offer. Alright, into box 2, and that's where all the people are, all the playable miniatures, and we get a representation of medieval justice here with the executioner. Executioners are relatively common, but what's more rare are, of course, prisoners. I always love to get prisoner models because they are not common and they have a lot of narrative value. So, yep, gotta love some prisoners. So the set is broadly in 2 categories with townsfolk, and we're digging into the townsfolk first. We've got a merchant and what looks like another merchant or a courtier, and a black market merchant. Oh yeah, that's super duper fun. I love it. Then we get a farmer with his pet goose. Nice stuff. I guess he's using a cane there. And then we get the more sinister version of that goose. Ooh, a threatening piece of poultry for sure. And an old lady gathering firewood in the forest. Nothing to worry about there. Go ahead and insult her. She's probably not a witch, right? Probably. Onward, ever onward. Oops, sorry. We get a mother and child and some kids. One's doing some lawn work. One is playing adventurer. And one appears to be a version of Tom Sawyer, perhaps. But he's caught himself a great big fish. Ooh, delicious. I guess Mama will be happy that there's something on the table tonight. Alright, I'll be adding to my tavern. We got a old lady sweeping up after, I guess, a rowdy night. A lady baker. Maybe she works at the tavern. Maybe she just works at the baker's shop. And then, this is a novel one. It's a little goblin sporting it. He's drinking a pint. So I guess in this world, the goblins can go to the bar. Next up, we have some hard-working fellows, a lumberjack, wood gatherer kind of guy, and a miner, a dwarven miner. Always useful to have more miners. They seem to always pop up in adventures, and the more miner models I have, the happier I am. And then, of course, well, not a hard-working guy because he's a musician, a minstrel, good for the tavern, I guess, and he'll be hanging out, annoying people with his lute playing. Ugh, the lute. And then it's on to some more novel characters. We got a female falconer. Those are kind of nice. I'm more than likely going to use her as a crow master in Frostgrave, which is one of the more exotic units in Frostgrave. And then we got a guy. He appears to have dug up a mandrake. That's fun. And I guess this is a plague doctor, a little kind of on the steampunky side for a plague doctor. And he's got himself a rat. Maybe he'll be able to chase down the rats. Although plague doctors, the medieval mind didn't realize that the plague was carried by rats. They thought it was bad smells. Silly medieval people. And then our last townsfolk is this wacky guy. I don't know. This is one crazy model. I love it. I will probably be using this as a wizard from the illusionist school in a future game of Frostgrave. But it is such a zany model, and I do love zany novel models. Okay, and then we're on to the other kind of model that's typical in a set, which is adventurers. And we get a little guy, a little squire there, ready for adventure. Big goon, make a good thug in Frostgrave. We got a crossbowman on the hunt. He looks like he's tracking somebody, and another mighty warrior of some sort, some description, but clearly, well, these two are definitely player characters. Okay, onward ever onward with the adventurers. We got a lady warrior, very dramatic, posed to fight. Again, gotta be careful. The tip of the sword broke off, and when I was removing it from the sprue, and I never found it again, so he's a little awkward now. This lady, I guess she's probably a villain with her trident and her sword. She's an interesting model, but my favorite model out of this box, perhaps out of the whole set, is this crazy duck barbarian. Like I said, I love me some novel models, and nothing gets more novel than a duck barbarian. Reminds me of Glorantha. Oh, those old-timey games. And now we get ourselves a flashy wizard. I can always use more wizards. And a sinister-looking thief, or an assassin. He looks dangerous and disturbing. We got a lady with both a poleaxe and a crossbow, so she's ready to kill you from a little bit of a distance. And then another lady with her bow, a fine archer for sure. All right, moving on, ever onward. Another mighty warrior, a cleric perhaps, or some brick who's ready to fight. Right beside a thief who's ready to steal. It's a good-looking thief. We got Peter Pan's arch nemesis by the looks of things. Good old Captain Hook, a fine pirate without a doubt. And then a rather classic-looking elven bowman. The world's awash with elven bowmen, so it's not exciting, but it's still good. Now onto the good stuff. What the Monster Painter's all about. Monsters, and we get a bunch of gnolls. Everybody loves the gnolls these days, and we get some really striking, vicious gnoll monsters. They came in, there were 2 sprues, and so we got duplicates of them, but they did come with different options, so they don't look exactly the same at least, and that's a good variety. That's 6 gnolls. It's a dangerous band of villains for sure. Get some more classic monsters. We get a bunch of kobolds. Again, 2 copies of each model. No variables with the kobolds, but that's okay. They're kind of fun. I love having me a kobold wizard. They are wicked and dangerous and evil little guys. And of course, he's backed up by a pair of kobolds. Oh wait, 3 kobold wizards, and three guys with the pointy weapons. Yeah, well, you know, it'd be a pretty dangerous group of kobolds, really. And then on to orcs and goblins, and we had a couple crazy dudes with explosive packs. They're gonna make a giant mess. And then we got a big one who's angry and getting ready for the chopping. Great stuff, nice models for sure, and I always love me more orcs and goblins. And then our last handful of goblins, we got this crazy guy demonstrating an extraordinarily unusual bow technique. Oh, those goblins, they're zany guys. And then this orc, he's the only one that's just an individual. He looks dangerous. Maybe he's supposed to be a player character, and that's why he only came as a 1. Alright, so more classic monsters. We're getting our zombies, these wacky guys with the axes in their heads. This one broke, so I re-glued it, and I guess I got it, I took my own route with that, or one of them is re-glued, I'm not sure which one. And then we got this guy, we got 2 of him, he's dragging a big old flail and looking angry and dead. And we get 2 of him, and then we get perhaps one of the more challenging models to assemble, but very dramatic and novel. This fellow is, he's using a spear as a cane because he's lost his leg. Oh, there's no rest for the dead, is there? Gotta keep fighting. And now we have a model that I really find entertaining. This guy looks like he's a medieval Batman. He's ready for taking out his anger on crime, I guess, in the old days. And a sack, because of course we always need more sacks. I don't know if it's Batman's sack, but yeah, get a sack. Finally, the box contains a couple of big monsters like this golem with a rather off-balance pose. Looks like he's stomping along, ready to kill. We get this, the history's least sexy mermaid. She's gonna whack you with a pole. She's got a tentacle arm. She's great. I really like I said, I love a novel model. And then another classic, genie, looking very mischievous and dangerous. Good stuff. I really like these. Lastly, box 2 provides us an ample number of extra bases. These Dungeons and Laser bases, they can be very interesting. They're all kind of sculpted, which some of them are great. Some of them are bit specific to be totally useful, and others are like pretty generic and very useful. But I always like more bases. I'm sure I will find a use for them, as I'm always in need of bases, and I'm always gluing something down to a base. And at long last, we have arrived at box number 3 of the Dungeons & Lasers Woodhaven Stretch Goals. And what a surprise! It is full of sprues! Big shocker, I know. More importantly, it contains the instruction manual, which is really important. Because while this box is mostly simpler than the last box, it is also much more complex than the other 2 boxes put together. Okay, let's get at this. Here we go. Now, for me, one of my favorite parts of a crowdfunding campaign are the stretch goals. They make that volume bargain you're purchasing seem like a sweet bargain indeed. And Archon Studios does not spare the sugar with its stretch goals. As well, you often get the zaniest and most novel models in the stretch goals, and I absolutely love zany and novel. Well, that was a Herculean effort, but we're all done now. Let us see what box 3 has to offer. Okay, on to box 3, and we'll start again with the stuff that's not much use. We got a bunch of walls for their building system, their modular building system, Dungeons & Lasers Archon Studio. Looks like Tudor walls. I'm sure if you had that system they would be great. I don't, so they're not going to be too useful. I didn't assemble these, but they are like chimneys. They clearly they seem to fit onto their system, their modular system. I might figure out a use for them, but they're not like super totally awesomely useful. Then we get a couple of piles of gross detritus. These fit into the corners of those dungeons, and this is better, treasure. But yeah, since I don't use their system, these aren't terribly useful, but I may work something else out with them. Then we get these bracket mushrooms that fit into a bracket in their wall system. 2 bracket mushrooms and a pipe that's sticking out its tongue. Disgusting oozy goop coming out of there. I dread to even think of what that might be. We get a rather nice sewage grate. Looks like it again mounts into the wall and onto a floor piece. Again, not terribly useful. It'll require some work and some imagination to get use out of it, but it's still kind of cool. And then we get, I think I'll do that is the next one. All right, we get some other stuff that is of, well, it's going to be tricky to find use. We get a rather lovely Weathermane. That's great. Kind of looking more colonial American than medieval fantasy, but you know, who's to argue? And then what looks like another weather vane. Again, I might find some use for them. They would definitely add lovely gribbliness to a building that I scratch build. And then we get a flagpole, you know, maybe a banner, maybe it's a flag on top. I guess it really depends on which way the wind is blowing. But you know, I might find some use. But these guys here, this sign, while it's meant to fit into their system, I'm gonna clip that off and mount it on a base, and it'll be a great piece of scatter terrain, along with a really novel thing, a mailbox. This is not quasi-medieval. There was no mail back in those days, but it's still a great piece of scatter terrain, and I'm gonna have fun with that. And again, I gotta mount it, clip off the nub and mount it, and then we have a very decorative lamppost for, I don't know, the Gothic neighborhood where the necromancers live. But yeah, that's pretty cool, pretty big, and it'll be great once I work out how to base it. Okay, now for some immediately useful things from old box 3. We get some sacks of treasure. We are all about the treasure after all, and this is what motivates most games in one way or another. And we get 3 sacks of treasure, just one plain sack tied up, so who knows what's inside of that. Mystery treasure. And then yet another little bag of grain by the looks of things. You know, nice stuff. Great for adding texture to a scene. Right, and well, after all, a large number of scenes are at the tavern, so we get a bunch of tavern furniture. Quite nice stuff. Another bar for my world. I like this. I like the cabinet quite a bit. I think that's pretty cool. And then we got another little wine rack down here. Good stuff. Always need more furniture for my tavern. But the tavern is also where you stay, and the hardened adventurers will love, because they're loaded, because they got all those bags of treasure now, they can afford some luxury like a hot bath. Ooh, and we get a barrel bathtub and a more proper bathtub. This is good stuff. I don't think I have any baths in my collection. I got a number of beds, but can always use another one. All right, so if if you got the money and you're getting the luxurious room, you can have the fireplace. And this is a really nice looking fireplace with a cow skull on it. But unfortunately, it's got an open back. I prefer them to be in the round. But life goes on. It'll still be a useful thing. And then, what could be more fun? A bearskin rug to match our barbarian's underwear. Yes, good stuff. And then, you know, it's the medieval age, and yeah, plumbing hadn't been invented yet, so no matter how much you pay, you gotta use the latrine. Alright, so we get a trap door. Trap doors lead to the dungeon, and so now we have a bit more dungeon stuff. Like, I don't know, dungeons should be full of broken and damaged crates. You know, the goblins and the monsters are always dragging treasure off and breaking them open. So broken crates are good too. And then, maybe this is for the tavern, maybe it's for the dungeon. It's a pot of something mysterious bubbling up. I glued it to a base because it was quite tippy. I don't like tippy. I also glued this sinister little altar. Ooh, look at the diabolicalness of it. Yes, an altar of evil for sure, and a really nice piece of dungeon terrain, which will have all sorts of narrative potential. And then, of course, well, it looks like a mechanism for a safe or some such thing. Maybe it's a door or something, but it's, yeah, I can see it being quite useful. I like it. Yep, more good stuff. Oh dear, I almost left behind the proper crate. That's a good thing. I always love more crates. Crates and barrels. I love crates and barrels. And then we get this wooden plank. You know, when you're doing multi-level dungeons, these things are quite handy. I like that. That's going to be useful. And then, who knows what dangerous terror lurks within this well. And it's got a little crank set, so that's fun. I like that. All right, now we get a couple of banners. Those are cool. I definitely insisted on gluing them to a base because otherwise they would be far too tippy. They're nice. They're gonna really be mostly for court scenes, I guess. But still, they're pretty cool. All right, so now we get some novel models, some flotsam and jetsam, a barrel that is done up to either be half buried but more likely floating in the ocean. And then we have another crate that definitely looks like it's floating in the ocean, and it's novel. You don't get a lot of that. And then a corpse. His rat buddy has come off. I'm gonna have to reglue him. But you know, corpse floating in the water with a rat clinging to him. You know, they love to leave sinking ships after all. Good stuff. Okay, back to the tavern for a moment. We get a patron who is plastered out of his mind. Good stuff. And we get a barbarian with a beard. And, you know, yeah, the scale of these in general, they're pretty good. I think a lot of them are a little small. This is heroic 28mm, so they're all like proper 28mm, which is good for, you know, regular characters and that kind of thing. I prefer a smaller model anyway. Something in there. Yep, big barbarian, a noble knight calling to rallying the men to fight up the stairs or some such thing. And there he is in a more relaxed pose. He's got a dandy hat. Maybe he's at court, although you're not allowed to have a sword at court. But yep, great stuff. Good models. Okay, so the box number 3 had Dungeons and Lasers Woodhaven Stretch Goals, All the Pieces Matter manual, and all the pieces do matter. I was puzzled at first. Why did they have the manual for building them in the 3rd box when it should have been in the 1st box? But I think there was method to their madness, and madness being a key operative word in this situation, because, good lord, this is an air elemental. This thing is the craziest, most abstract model I think I've ever had to deal with, and there was no way, if I didn't have the manual in my hot little hand, I would not have been able to build this. Absolutely insane and fantastic air elemental. Totally love it. And it came with a less complicated, but still the manual is pretty handy to build, less complicated earth elemental. Oh, yep, those two are joining that fire elemental from the first box. And then, wait, we get a water elemental, a big sea elemental. He is pretty simple, and he would have dry fitted, but again, no way this guy would have been built without that manual. So having him in the same box as the manual was probably intentional and wise. And we have finally come to the end of this epic journey. This kit took me forever to put together. There are a lot of models in these stretch goals. And the second last is this fellow who appears to be wading in the water and is going to drown people and looks like a Shahagan or some other dreadful, terrifying monster. But a truly dreadful, terrifying monster is Trevor the Devil. He's a embodiment of cartoon evil if there ever was one. He looks extraordinarily unpleasant and dangerous, and he will menace whatever players his table lands on. It's great stuff. I really love these models. Whee! Well, that was a sprawling epic. Now I have enough miniatures for a year of painting. And if you made it through all of that, well, my friends, your reward is a monster fight! Yeah! Tonight's battle features this ferocious giant snake! He is big, he is red, and he has an enormous appetite. Verse a granola earth muffin wizard! This is what Gandalf would look like if he went off the grid. Who will win? The dice have the answer! Wow, that's a result that's going to surprise everybody but the herpetologists.
You're no match for me, Snake. You'll succumb to my magic. You good snake. A good snake. We are friends, Snake. Yes.
And the moral of the story is, always make sure the spell has taken effect. Hello. I'd just like to take a moment to thank my channel members, Lauren, Mark, and the new one, Spamalinguist. Thank you for your support. It's greatly appreciated. And if you want to support the Monster Painter with some money, all you have to do is hit that membership button down there, and then you'll gain early access to Monster Painter videos, badges, digital badges, and most importantly, the dark secrets of the Elder Gods! Oh yeah, and monthly members-only monster fight. Really important. The Monster Painter is getting out of the studio and going on a field trip. Woohoo! Good lord, there are so many models in these stretch goals that I almost forgot one. This horrifying zombie troll. Hey, zombie troll, what do you have to say for yourself? Remember to like, comment, subscribe, share the video, and ring the bell. Ring the bell!
Watching Less the Monster Painter.